In today's world, we constantly hear debates and discussions on matters that shape our society, whether it's climate change, social justice, or policies that affect the economy. These debates highlight the need for more than just opinion. They demand logic, reason, and a structured philosophical approach. But what is philosophy really? Why is it vital to modern thinking? And more importantly, what does this have to do with the Renaissance spirit, our channel that is making this video? Philosophy, at its core, is the pursuit of knowledge and truth. It's a discipline that invites us to question everything, from the nature of reality to the way we live our lives. The very essence of philosophical inquiry is built on curiosity. Why are things the way they are? Can they be different? Should they be different? This quest for understanding isn't just theoretical, it impacts our world in real ways. Consider the political headlines today, whether it's about rights, justice, or governance. Each of these issues involves philosophical questions. How do we balance individual freedom with the common good? What is truth in a world full of conflicting narratives? The importance of logic and reasoning comes into play here. Without a structured way to analyze arguments, we'd be left in a sea of emotional rhetoric and baseless claims. Logic helps us sift through the noise, ensuring that the arguments we accept are rooted in reason, not mere persuasion. Just as important, philosophical inquiry encourages us to look beyond surface-level judgments, questioning the foundations of our beliefs. This method of critical thinking isn't just about finding the right answer, it's about learning how to ask the right questions. This is where media literacy becomes essential. In our era of information overload, logic and reasoning help us discern fact from fiction. Being media literate means understanding how information is crafted, how biases play into reporting, and how data is often manipulated to sway opinions. By applying logic to what we consume in the media, we can separate well-reasoned arguments from misinformation or clickbait headlines. Without media literacy, society is vulnerable to manipulation, allowing false narratives and misleading information to thrive. In a world where news can shape public opinion overnight, the ability to critically assess media through logic and reason is not just a skill, it's a safeguard for democracy itself. Speaking of democracy, logic and reason are the bedrock of any functioning democratic system. A healthy democracy relies on citizens who can engage in informed debates, evaluate policies rationally, and make decisions based on sound reasoning rather than emotional manipulation. When voters are equipped with logical thinking and media literacy, they can better hold their leaders accountable and make choices that benefit the common good. But what happens when logic and reason are used without compassion? A purely logical approach, devoid of empathy, can lead to cold, detached decision-making that overlooks the human impact of policies. This is why compassion must balance logic, ensuring that our reasoning doesn't ignore the very people it aims to serve. So, where does the Renaissance spirit come in? During the Renaissance, thinkers like Galileo and Da Vinci weren't just focused on art and science for their own sake. They embraced a holistic view of the world, one that valued reason, creativity, and compassion. The Renaissance spirit is about this same combination of disciplines combining knowledge and humanity to improve society. This isn't just about knowing facts. It's about understanding how to use knowledge to advance a just and compassionate world. As we dive deeper into this, let's explore the exact role of logic and reasoning in shaping our understanding of the world. The Renaissance spirit wasn't born in a vacuum. It was built on the logical frameworks that we still rely on today. Frameworks that continue to shape everything from our political systems to our personal lives. Part 2 will take us on a journey into these logical frameworks and why they're essential to both the Renaissance spirit and our modern discourse. What happens when logic fails us? And more importantly, how do we prevent it from failing? Stay tuned for those answers next. Now that we've opened the door to philosophy, let's walk deeper into the role of logic and reasoning, the backbone of meaningful inquiry. In the current landscape of misinformation and sensationalism, logic acts as a guide, cutting through the fog of emotional appeal and falsehood. But how does it actually function? And why is it vital to understanding not just the world around us, but also the Renaissance spirit? Logic, in essence, is the structure that holds up any argument. When you engage in a debate or even a casual discussion, logic ensures that your reasoning is sound, your conclusions follow from your premises, and that the truth you are seeking isn't distorted by fallacies. Imagine discussing climate change or economic policy without logic. The conversation quickly disintegrates into mere opinions, each voice demanding to be louder, but no one really being heard. Headlines often reflect this chaos, with political pundits resorting to sensationalism to win points rather than engaging in reasoned discourse. This is where the Renaissance spirit's emphasis on logic shines. The thinkers of that era did not shy away from complexity or contradiction. Galileo, for instance, challenged the accepted views of the time using logical frameworks. He didn't just claim the Earth revolved around the sun, he used reasoned observation to support his argument. This method, where ideas are tested, evaluated, and confirmed through rational analysis, is something we need more than ever today. Consider the modern political debate around healthcare. At the heart of these debates are core questions. What is the role of the state? What are human rights, and should they be universal? How do we ensure fairness while maintaining individual freedoms? Logic allows us to break down these questions into manageable parts and assess the arguments that follow. Without logic, we'd be stuck in a mire of contradictory opinions, unable to distinguish a good policy from a poorly thought-out one. As essential as logic is, it doesn't operate in isolation. Reasoning helps us apply logic to real-world situations, allowing us to consider consequences, foresee problems, and create solutions that stand the test of time. This combination of logic and reasoning enables society to move beyond superficial answers, fostering thoughtful solutions. And this is where the Renaissance spirit thrives, by combining knowledge with human-centered thinking. As we explore logic more closely in Part 3, we'll uncover the basic structures that form the foundation of any good argument. Knowing the parts of an argument will allow us to navigate complex issues more effectively. Whether it's a political debate, a personal decision, or understanding an age-old philosophical problem, what are the building blocks of sound reasoning, and how can you identify them in everyday life? You're about to find out. Having established the importance of logic and reasoning, we now turn to the anatomy of a good argument. Every debate, every idea worth examining, hinges on these fundamental structures: the argument, its premises, and the conclusion that follows. But what do these terms really mean? And how do they work together to form coherent, convincing ideas? In a world where heated opinions often overtake reasoned debate, understanding these basics is more important than ever. At its core, an argument is a set of statements made to persuade someone of a particular point of view. But it's not enough to merely assert something. That's where logic steps in. Arguments are built from premises, which are the reasons or evidence that support a given position, and a conclusion, the claim that follows from those premises. For example, a simple argument might go like this: all humans are mortal. Premise: and Socrates is human. premise. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Conclusion. This classic syllogism is an airtight example of logical reasoning at work. A syllogism is a form of logical reasoning where a conclusion is drawn from two given or assumed premises, typically following a structure in which, if the premises are true, the conclusion must also be true. But not all arguments are this simple, and in the messy world of politics and current affairs, it's easy to see how bad arguments, those built on faulty premises or poor logic, can lead to false conclusions. Take, for instance, debates over gun control. A common argument might be, criminals don't follow laws, premise. Gun control laws are laws, premise. Therefore, gun control won't stop criminals, conclusion. At first glance, this might seem reasonable, but upon closer inspection, it's clear that the premises oversimplify the issue, ignoring data that suggests laws do, in fact, reduce access to weapons and therefore crime. This illustrates why understanding the structure of arguments is so vital. If you can identify the premises and see how they lead to the conclusion, you're in a much better position to challenge faulty reasoning. Logical arguments built on sound premises offer more than just persuasion. They help reveal the truth of a matter. This brings us to an important skill: recognizing when premises don't support a conclusion at all, or when an argument veers off course due to faulty logic. Many modern discussions fall into this trap, and spotting these mistakes can empower you to think critically about the information you're presented with. Critical thinking is the ability to analyze information objectively, evaluate different perspectives, and form reasoned judgments based on evidence and logic. It involves questioning assumptions, identifying biases, and assessing the validity of arguments rather than accepting ideas at face value. Critical thinking is deeply intertwined with logic and reason because it uses structured methods to evaluate whether an argument is sound and supported by solid evidence. Through logic, critical thinkers break down arguments into their component parts, premises, and conclusions, while reason allows them to connect the dots between facts and ideas. Ultimately, critical thinking helps navigate complex issues by ensuring decisions are thoughtful, informed, and free from emotional manipulation or flawed reasoning. The ability to dissect arguments is something that the Renaissance spirit emphasizes. The polymaths of the Renaissance, like Leonardo da Vinci, didn't just accept things at face value. They broke down concepts, examined their parts, and only then did they build up knowledge. In Part 4, we'll examine some of the most common logical fallacies, those sneaky errors in reasoning that appear all too often in political speeches, media discussions, and even everyday conversations. What makes these fallacies so persuasive, and how can we guard against them? The next section will arm you with the tools to spot these traps. Now that we've broken down the basic structure of arguments, it's time to address the flip side. What happens when logic goes wrong? Even the most well-meaning conversations can be derailed by errors in reasoning, known as logical fallacies. These fallacies may seem convincing on the surface, but they rely on faulty reasoning that leads to false or misleading conclusions. In today's world, where debates on climate change, immigration, and economic policy are often rife with emotion, spotting these fallacies is more important than ever. Let's start with one of the most prevalent fallacies in modern discourse, the ad hominem attack. This fallacy occurs when someone attacks the person making the argument rather than addressing the argument itself. You'll often see this in politics. Instead of discussing policy, a candidate might focus on discrediting their opponent's character. You shouldn't trust their opinion on healthcare reform. They're crazy. This shift from debating the issue at hand to discrediting the speaker distracts from the real conversation, avoiding the need to engage with the argument's actual content. Another common fallacy, especially in political discussions, is the straw man. This occurs when someone distorts an opponent's argument into an oversimplified or misrepresented version, making it easier to attack. For example, in discussions about climate policy, someone might say, "Oh, so you want to ban all cars and force everyone to ride bicycles?" when the real argument was merely about reducing emissions. The straw man fallacy sidesteps the complexity of the issue by creating a weaker version of the argument to knock down. Perhaps the most subtle, yet insidious fallacy is the appeal to emotion. While emotions are a natural part of human discourse, relying solely on emotional appeals without supporting them with reason and evidence can be dangerous. Think of how fear-based rhetoric has been used in debates about immigration. If we allow more immigrants into the country, they'll take all our jobs and endanger our safety. Such arguments provoke strong emotional reactions, but often lack a reasoned examination of the actual data. One more that shows up all too frequently is the false dilemma, also known as the either-or fallacy. This fallacy presents a situation as having only two options when, in reality, there are many possible solutions. Take political rhetoric surrounding national security versus privacy. Either we give up all our privacy for safety, or we live in constant danger. This kind of thinking is narrow, forcing us into extremes instead of considering balanced approaches that could protect both safety and privacy. Recognizing these logical fallacies is crucial because they can distort our understanding of complex issues. The Renaissance spirit teaches us to be cautious of oversimplified narratives. Thinkers like Erasmus and Montaigne didn't just look for the easy answers. They engaged with the full complexity of human thought and debate. By identifying logical fallacies, we not only guard ourselves from manipulation, but also foster richer, more productive discussions. In Part 5, we will bring everything together, focusing on how logic, reason, and compassion form a powerful trio that embodies the Renaissance spirit. How can these three forces work in tandem to improve not only our personal thinking, but also our collective efforts toward a just, equitable society? You won't want to miss this final exploration. As we bring this exploration to a close, it's time to unite the ideas of logic, reason, and compassion. Three essential forces that define the Renaissance spirit. Together, they offer more than just a method of thinking. They represent a philosophy for living that can transform both personal lives and broader society. But how do these elements work in harmony? Why is it so important that we balance cold, hard logic with human-centered compassion? And what can we learn from this as we navigate the challenges of our modern world? Logic and reason, as we've discussed, are the cornerstones of clear thinking. Without them, we'd be at the mercy of misinformation, emotional manipulation, and faulty arguments. We see this today in politics and current affairs, where debates often escalate into shouting matches devoid of substance. But as essential as logic and reason are, they alone are not enough. To create a just, equitable world, a world that embodies the Renaissance spirit, compassion must also play a vital role. Take today's most pressing issues: climate change, social justice, poverty. We can use logic and reason to understand the scope of these problems, to break them down into solvable parts, and to design policies that address them effectively. But without compassion, without a deep care for humanity and our shared future, those solutions risk being disconnected from the very people they are meant to serve. Imagine climate policy focused solely on technological advancement without considering the human toll on those already affected by rising sea levels or extreme weather. It is compassion that reminds us that these aren't abstract numbers on a chart. They are real people with real lives who will suffer the consequences of our inaction. The Renaissance spirit, as exemplified by great thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, wasn't just about logic and creativity. It was about understanding what it means to be human, understanding human nature and the human condition. Logic guides us toward truth. Reason helps us apply that truth effectively. But compassion is what gives that truth purpose. Without compassion, knowledge can become cold and detached, disconnected from the human experience. Consider the debates about healthcare in modern politics. Logic can show us that certain policies reduce costs and improve outcomes, while reason can help us design systems that make those policies effective. But compassion is what motivates us to ensure that every person, regardless of wealth or status, has access to the care they need. It's the understanding that behind every statistic is a story, a family, a child, a life worth protecting. This Trinity logic, reason, and compassion is what gives the Renaissance spirit its enduring relevance today. In a world where misinformation spreads faster than ever, where global crises seem insurmountable, we need all three working in unison. Logic and reason guide us towards solutions, while compassion ensures that those solutions uplift humanity rather than merely manage problems. The Renaissance thinkers didn't seek knowledge for its own sake. They sought it to improve the world around them, to enrich the lives of their fellow humans, and to inspire a sense of shared purpose. In conclusion, the Renaissance spirit is more than a philosophy, it's a way of living that calls for a balance of intellect and empathy, of analysis and humanity. As we face today's challenges, from political polarization to global environmental crises, let us embrace this spirit. Let us use logic and reason to understand our world, and compassion to change it for the better. This trio, working together, empowers us not only to think critically, but also to act justly. As you move forward in your own pursuit of knowledge and truth, remember that it is the combination of these forces, logic, reason, and compassion, that will allow you to not just understand the world, but to improve it. And that is the true essence of the Renaissance spirit. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and share, and check out our other videos on the Renaissance spirit, including our quiz.